So, guys, I want to talk about AEW Collision, and I do want to say that it was a really good show, but there were definitely some ups and downs. Like, definitely the match with Jay White and Hangman Adam Page was really awesome. However, and also, too, I really appreciate them starting up with a follow up video from what happened between Daniel Garcia and MJF, just because. Definitely that brought out a lot of emotions in everybody. But mostly this match, but then everything else in the show was very forgettable. I do want to start with the Jay White and Adam Page match. That what happens is that Adam Page has the match and Bullet Club Gold comes down, but they're not allowed to actually interfere in the match. They're actually barred from the building because of the Young Bucks. And if you haven't watched Dynamite, what's happening is that Adam Page doesn't want to be part of the Young Bucks. He wants to do things himself, but the Elite is actually just still giving him preferential treatment. Maybe they're like, okay, this is just you being emotional, but we're still your buddy, so we don't know where it's gonna go, but we still believe that you're gonna do good for us, really. So so definitely what I appreciate with this match is that Adam Page was definitely very brutal. He was very violent. He was very like intense, really, and that's what you do with wrestling. If that's his character, he's acting like the way his character should be acting, really. So I really appreciate how he did this match. He does the fallaway. Adam Page does the fallaway slam. Jay White does knife edge chops. Adam Page is communicating aggression. I really appreciate that. He throws Jay White into a barricade and slams his head against a barricade. In the split screen, there's a spot where they go into the crowd and Adam Page's head is all bloodied, and I didn't like that because honestly, I think that was a mistake. That shouldn't have happened. But if that was supposed to be a spot that was supposed to happen, where he's supposed to blade, really, you don't do that in the split screen. You have to do that on regular television because that's something very important to the match. And I really hope that was a mistake, right? Because I've said it would make more sense if Jay White got bloodied by Adam Page and then he was fighting through the blood and fighting through the brutality of Adam Page. Really, that would make more sense, and it kind of makes that dynamic of Adam Page being this monster babyface, monster heel, and then Jay White being like the babyface in this. Pardon me, this is the 4th of July season, so you're gonna hear fireworks, in the background. And then also Jay White does a DDT. He does a deadlift German suplex. Jay White does a dragon screw leg whip through the rope, which looks cool. Adam Page does a power bomb, and they kind of kept going back and forth a bit. So it really made me think for a while that maybe they're going to have Jay White win this. But I kind of knew that Adam Page was going to win this. And I was not happy with the referee bump because they keep kind of doing this. This happens in a lot of the matches with referee bumps. So, and then what you saw was Adam Page do a pinfall, and then it actually got to like a 10 or 11 count, and then Jeff Jarrett comes down, and he wants this to be done with honor because he sees Adam Page choking Jay White and then whipping him with a belt, really. So I was like, what's going on here? Jeff Jarrett is known as a heel, but now he's a babyface. And then what happens is that Christian Cage spears Jay White because he wants to fight over the trios titles. So I'm happy with that end result, really. If you're going to get to Jay White, the Bullet Club Gold versus versus the Christian patriarchy, that's the direction they need to go in. Christian really needs to work really hard in rebuilding the trios division. Imagine all the teams that you're going to get with those trios titles. You can't have Jay White and Bullet Club Gold hold it because they've not really shown that they're really shown that they're placeholder champions, not champions that actually can create feuds and other things like that, really. So I really just think that that since it's going to go in that direction, that's going to be good. I would really honestly hope that maybe at Blood and Guts you actually have the trios title defended and then you switch it over. Or since Bullet Club Gold has the ROH titles, why not actually have them do it at Supercard of Honor, really, just because you want to make that show pop, really. And then maybe what you can do at Wembley Stadium is Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, and also that other person that they're with, no, Kyle O'Reilly. You can have that, or you can also have the Patriarch versus Joe Hook and Katsuyori Shibata. So those could be those could be great things. So the show started with them recapping what happened to Daniel Garcia and MJF, and I also really appreciate that they showed the footage, and they're also intercutting because there's backstage footage of Daddy Magic, who's Daniel Garcia's friend, actually just having a emotional breakdown because Daniel Garcia just got beaten, and also like his mother was watching the show really. So definitely she's shocked about what happened to Daniel Garcia. You open with MJF, and that's actually a good opening because obviously he's a star. It's gonna make people want to watch the show, show up to the Memphis, Tennessee area. I was a little mad at the show too because they kept saying they were in Memphis, Tennessee. No, they were in, I think, Miss Haven, Mississippi. So if you're in Mississippi, you shouldn't say that you're in Memphis, Tennessee, even if you're like 20 minutes from Memphis. That's just stupid. That's almost like if I'm, it's almost like they're having like the Full Gear show in Newark, New Jersey, and if they said we're having it in New York City or the New York City area, no, you're having it in Newark, New Jersey. Keep it straight. That's kind of that makes you guys look stupid. But I do appreciate the intercutting. I like what MJF said. He calls Daniel Garcia a Make-A-Wish kid, and it was never going to happen that they were going to have a match at All In. He said that he has something called rejection disorder, which he responds to rejections poorly, and it's due to his bullying. And I felt that he was a little long-winded. Like with MJF, he does speak for a very long time, and as he has to understand that if you do it way too many times, it doesn't become something special. It becomes a little like, okay, today Junior, or you become like WWE when Triple H was hosting Monday Night Raw, and he and his faction come down. If you're always like doing it, it doesn't become special. It becomes kind of daunting. He insults Okada, Ospreay, Daniel Garcia, Swerve, Samoa Joe, and the fans. So he's setting up multiple feuds. But as I said, like they've been doing that a lot with AEW, like people just picking fights with multiple people. So as I said before, if you do that too many times, that becomes a little monotonous. He says that Will Ospreay cares about Dave Meltzer, and MJF cares about the Nelson ratings. And he calls out Will Ospreay knowing that he's not going to be there. So, and that kind of ended it, really. So I really appreciate MJF just being a heel. He really does care about, everybody knows that a heel role works well with him. But I do think that as he has to kind of understand that he does, he's going to become a little repetitive, I think that he doesn't realize, but he's kind of like a one-trick pony. So, it's going to be really challenging to see what he's going to do after Daniel Garcia, where he's going to be like 1 year from now, 2 years from now. He may just be a little repetitive. Very talented performer, but I think that he doesn't realize that he's a bit of a one-trick pony. Mark Briscoe, once again, you see Mark Briscoe be very animated, and why can't they just do something before you start a match? You have Mark Briscoe cut a promo. I noticed that many, many times, really. So, yeah, that should be happening. And then the other thing that happened was it was Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly versus the Iron Savages and Jack Davison. Who the hell is that Jack Davison? They did something where Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly were drinking like the sauce, and they get like very animated and jittery. And for Mark Briscoe's character, that works. For Kyle O'Reilly, he's a very serious character, so it's almost like why is he now acting a little like, as I call it, 48-hour film project? Like the competition where if, in order to win, kind of you have to make a silly film or it's silly comedy and other things like that. So why is he being like a 48-hour film project movie where he has to ham it up and be silly and goofy? Nothing really stood out to me in this match because I really felt that the comedy and everything like that stood out too much. Iron Savages do a senton. Mark Briscoe and the Iron Savages, they do a comedy spot. A lot of their actions overlooked. Mark Briscoe does a cannonball at the outside of the ring. Orange Cassidy does an orange punch to win this match. I don't like him doing the orange punch. It's a pretty weak finisher. I've said that like definitely Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy and the Iron Savages, with their comedy, they have a lot of charisma, but definitely it gets to a point really where if you ham it up too much, really, then it's almost like what they do in the ring doesn't stand out really. And then it's also like Kyle O'Reilly, wasn't he part of the Undisputed Kingdom, or wasn't he part of Kyle Fletcher? Wasn't he part of Don Callis family. Now he's doing a bit of comedy stuff, so it's a little like you're kind of switching people and their roles around a little too much. The next match was Trish Adora versus Toni Storm. Trish Adora is a really great wrestler. She needs more matches, and she definitely just needs a bit of a push. Like give her give her like a quarter of a year, give her like 4 months on Dynamite and see what she can do. Really, she has a really great look, really, but I think she's a little too. She's kind of like in ROH limbo. They need to kind of do more with Trish Adora because she definitely has something special. I like her submissions, but she's kind of been. She deserves a bigger spot. They both do short shoulder tackle attempts. Trish Adora does a submission that looks a little bit like her submission hold. It's almost like she puts Toni Storm in like a over the back pile driver, like a dead eye position. That's kind of like what her submission looks like. Toni Storm does a drop kick. Toni Storm asks for a standing ovation, then it cuts to commercial break. I'm not sure why this happened. It's a little like what we see Toni Storm. She's a little 48-hour film project. She just can't turn off the comedy. She can't stop hamming it up, really. They both exchange backbreakers. They both exchange forearms. Toni Storms does her package pile driver, the Storm Zero, and wins. And that's that. The next thing is that Jack Perry issues an open challenge, and he's talking about like sacrifice a lot, and I felt that was a little like weird. What is he trying to be? Is he trying to be Bray Wyatt? Really talk about sacrifice all the time. He's also wearing the goat mask, so he does kind of feel like a little Bray Wyatt. I don't think that works for him. I think just being an asshole or kind of like a jerk or like a punk ass that kind of works for him. But having like this big goat mask and everything like that, it doesn't really work for him. It was also, I think, the worst match of the night because he has a match with Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt is from Mississippi, so obviously you want to cheer the Mississippi crowd, but once again, just remember that this is AEW, and they're saying that they're not in Mississippi when they are in Mississippi. They're saying that they're in Memphis because they're close to Memphis when they're actually in Mississippi, So it is a little like stupid that you're having a guy that you're saying is from Mississippi and he's the hometown hero tonight when you're in Mississippi and you're saying that you are in Memphis, So, I mean, I'm just pointing out how silly this is. It was a bad call because it was a really bad match because I really think that, what Marco Stunt should have done, she should have just gotten the microphone and talked to Jack Perry and been like, you were Jungle Boy, you're this really cool guy. What's happened to you and Luchasaurus, really? I want to come back and I want to straighten both of you out. I want to be a team again. That storytelling would work. I want you to snap you out of it, really. And then also too, when they're both fighting, it looked like two middle school kids because they're both like weak and puny. And then the other thing too was that there was a bunch of like 2 counts and there was a bunch of offense that Marco Stunt did to Jack Perry. That was a bad thing. You should have had him, hit him with like 1 or 2 moves. There should have been less than a minute. There should have been beat down Marco Stunt. There should have been like people pulling Marco Stunt out of the arena on a stretcher. That's what they should have done. Or you should have had a beat down, and then you could have had the EVP celebrate it with Jack Perry backstage. That's what they should have done, really. Or you should have had beat down Marco Stunt, the Acclaimed, or 2 other people. I think the Acclaimed were going to be in the Blood and Guts match. You should have just had them down, and they should have saved Marco Stunt. Then they announced that it's going to be actually the Acclaimed in the Blood and Guts against the Elite, really. So there's a lot that they could have done with this, but definitely just featuring Marco Stunt for the sake of featuring Marco Stunt is absolutely stupid. And I was saying to myself, what would have happened if they had Daddy Magic? And he was like saying, I don't know when Daniel Garcia's going to come back. He always wanted to win a title. I'm doing this for you. He loses to Jack Perry, but he puts up a hell of a fight, really. Or what would happen if you had Dalton Castle, who people like? Or what would happen if you had Dax Harwood, because we haven't seen him in a while, and he's trying to straighten out Jack Perry? Or what would happen if you had Dustin Rhodes, or something like that if you want to be a little bit more competitive? But just Marco Stunt, for the sake of featuring Marco Stunt, was definitely stupid. The next match is that you have Claudio versus Mortos. And again, it's a little. I know they're trying to feature CMLL wrestlers, but we're out of Forbidden Door season, and then it's like, who the hell is this guy? He has a really cool mask, and he looks like he went to a bondage shop. They could have done a montage package or a video package explaining who who Mortos was. Mortos, the only thing that was memorable is that Mortos jumps over the ring apron and he crashes into a cameraman, so it looked really cool just watching that impact. Mortos is a spinning. He does a dive through the ring apron, but he does like a twirl. He rolls like a rolling pin through it, so it looked really cool. Mortos does a head scissor. Cesaro does a side slam. Cesaro does a big swing. He does an uppercut and a lariat, and that's that really. The next match was Rio versus Lady Frost. Lady Frost has a lot of great offense, so she's also another one of those wrestlers that I do feel that if you want to build a really good women's division, give her, like 2 months on Dynamite, give her some matches, give her a feud, and see what she can do really. Really just celebrate her as like this ice queen. Like, what would happen if you took Frozen, or you even took like the witch from the line The Witch and the Wardrobe, and you kind of made her like the ice queen, or something like that. Really, you could do something. You could do something with her, or even like kind of get some ideas from Glacia, the wrestler. There's things that you can kind of do with it. I think she really deserves it. She's very athletic. And I think that, again, she's like one of those people that are in ROH hell. She needs to kind of move to the main roster. Lady Frost does a flip into a neck breaker, which looks cool. Rio does a crossbody and bulldog. I was saying to myself that I was writing some notes about the show, and I was saying that I wish we saw like a Jay White video promo, just talk about what it means for him to eventually have a spot at Wembley Stadium, or talk about the titles, or maybe even talk about how he feels a little underrated in AEW, or he wants all the gold. Like, they have 9 belts all together. Maybe that's the 10th belt that they're gonna have really. So there's a lot that they could have done with this. Just advocating Jay White. Back to the match. Lady Frost hits a judo driller. Lady Frost hits her frostbite moonsault. I expected Rio to win because she's in a feud with Serena Deeb. She actually beats Lady Frost, really, So, as I said, overall, if I was to give it a grade, I would say that the show was really like a C+. To be honest with you, I do think that the strengths of the show was the MJF promo, a follow-up Dana Garcia, a follow-up with Daddy Magic, and I think they should have Daddy Magic versus MJF at Blood and Guts. And I also think that, because MJF was an ROH champion, maybe you could do Daddy Magic and him at Death Before Dishonor. That could be a good match, or main eventing one of the shows. You can have Daddy Magic versus MJF. That needs to happen. It'll make Daddy Magic more of a star, really. Take all that energy, take all that hurt, take all that anger, take all that pain, do something with it. And then the next thing that I would say is that definitely the main event was really good. I like how they're setting up Christian versus Bullet Club Gold. That needs to happen. And then also the other matches were just not that memorable. So I really think that they need to kind of make sure all these matches kind of build to more stories. Sometimes you need to have matches just to have matches and no stories. But they kind of overdid. They did the stories that matter really, but they could have come up with new stories or new ideas. Even use your Collision to show to kind of set up Death Before Dishonor, as well really, or Blood and Guts, and so yeah, so there's a lot that they could have just set up for it really, So that's all I gotta say really, So it's just a C+ show. Dynamite was really good. I also appreciate them doing video packages and montages, because that way you can kind of get into your emotions about what you like about this show, and which wrestlers who you like and which wrestlers who you don't like, based on heel and babyface dynamics really. So AEW is going in the right direction really. The Dynamite show was stronger. The Collision show definitely needs some work.